The ancient Silk Road. During the year 130 before Christ and the year 1453 before Christ, there was a network of trade routes which linked China to certain areas of Europe. These routes were done by camels, all along deserts where traders would load up the camels with goods, such as silk, tea, dyes, spices, and others, and pass throughout years of traveling through deserts to trade with other merchants in the West, load up camels with more goods, such as woolen, blankets, textiles, slaves, and weapons. These routes were fundamental for the economies of the West and East to grow. Not just commerce was presented within these routes, but it also linked cultures and ideas. In the year 1453 before Christ, the Ottoman Empire boycotted trade with the West, which generated an eventual closing of the routes.
What is Belt and Road? In 2013, Chinese President Xi Jinping presents the One Belt, One Road initiative. This is a way of reviving the old Silk Road and bridging cultures together. The program's main goals, as stated by the President, are to link cultures within Asia, Europe, and Africa. Trade within the countries would be a secondary goal. This will happen using 5 economic corridors concerning land routes and a maritime route in the South Asian Sea. This project will unite 55% of the world's GDP and around 75% of the world's energy reserves. The population of 4.4 billion inhabitants within the 65 countries part of the initiative are speculated to hold a total disposable income of $21 trillion. China holds certain motivations towards the advancement of the project, these being the assurance of resources and commerce on an international degree. A way to channel out the surplus of supply their companies currently have include provinces of China which have not experimented the advancement that others have, and because of China being the leader in the project, they are also seeking for a higher participation of the yuan in international commerce.
The importance of infrastructure. As important as trade is within the world, it would be almost impossible if there were an absence of infrastructure. Roads, highways, tunnels, ports, airports, canals, oleoducts, and more account for infrastructure. What Mr. Jinping aims to do is to revive the ancient Silk routes, which were originally tremendous voyages through the desert by camel, and add a more modern touch to this by constructing ports, airports, roads, and other of the previously mentioned items, all around the continents to facilitate trade, international logistics, and the spread of cultures and ideas within the continents.
Countries within the program. As of an official 2016 document released by the Farm Business Intelligence Center, there were 64 plus 1 states ratified to this initiative. This refers to 64 countries throughout the continents and China. This spin-off onwards shows off China's leading role within the project. Some countries have accepted the initiative, but in some cases, such as India, they have decided to not go full force with the project's plan, but rather let the demand set if more projects are necessary. Chinese government invites more and more countries to participate to this initiative, for instance, seeking participation in South American countries and other parts of Africa. An interesting way in which this initiative seeks global participation is a way to integrate South America, such as a railroad system that will connect Brazil with Peru, giving Brazilian exports a straight route towards the Pacific Ocean. As for Asian exports to parts of southern South America.
Financing and criticism. It is not a mystery that a project this big concerns major funding of states that have proven to be unattractive for Western learners. We could fault issues toward non-democratic states or some states that cannot come to economic goals put as standards to acquire loans from the West. Restating China's position as leader within the program, they have offered to finance states, such as Greece, that is currently fighting off a huge deficit problem. China states some rules towards these financing programs. such as a 70% of workforce must be Chinese, this already benefiting major Chinese construction firms. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and the new Silk Road Fund have been created to specifically finance this project. The new Silk Road Fund holds a total of $40 billion, all destined towards Asian infrastructure projects under the Belt and Road Framework. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank has already helped with around 9 projects, also under the Belt and Road Framework.
What already exists? Due to not being able to pay off its debt, Pakistan leased off this port to China for 40 years in 2017. This is fundamental for Chinese commerce because this is the point where the maritime Silk Road meets the terrestrial Silk Road. There's also another factor that many speculate towards, and that is how China is assuring military points and bases to impose more presence within the regions and to guard its commercial routes.
Future of the project. This project promises to be one of the biggest infrastructure programs in history of mankind, with a growing participation of countries that are seeking to ratify as growing tensions between the world current superpower and China. Chinese government projects to have finished this gigantic project by 1949, marking the first 100 years of the People's Republic of China, and it's doing all its power to assure this. What will be for the future international relations influenced by this project? Will this project truly unite the regions or just prove to the global arena for China to rise as the world superpower? It will only be a matter of time to prove these questions.